Oh, several people just got hit. Several people just got run over.
A nation in pain. Cities destroyed, many on fire, from Minneapolis to Boston to Chicago.
Non-violent protests like one seen just overnight in Springfield.
Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot!
Overshadowed by looting and rioting.
Why y'all scared? What you doing?
The Marketplace Mall in Champaign ransacked, gas stations reduced to shattered glass.
And this morning, a warning from local leaders. Could our area be a target?
But one thing we're not going to do is we're not going to let people damage and destroy our community.
Yeah, protests and unease across the nation all over the death of George Floyd, an unarmed black man who died in custody of Minneapolis police exactly 1 week ago.
Yeah, we have live team coverage this morning. Matt Roy standing by with a look at the aftermath of the weekend protests. But first, let's get to some breaking news we're following from overnight. A fire at the Dirty South Lounge. It happened around 2 this morning. Fire shooting out of the windows. We're told it was under control within 10 minutes.
Also, police called to a shooting on East Cook Street overnight. Here's the scene there. You can see police have that area blocked off. One person was injured, but we are told it is not life-threatening. And of course, all of this happening just a few hours after an overnight protest just last night through the streets of Springfield. So far, there's been some minimal damage in the greater Springfield area, but police say they did get some intel that led them to believe something serious still could happen.
Yeah, police have our local shopping districts barricaded from Walmart to the White Oaks Mall. That's where we find News Channel 20's Matt Roy live right now. And Matt, what are the mayor and police chiefs saying about all of this?
Well, Brittany, Justin, as you can see, there's still a small police presence here at White Oaks Mall, where overnight there was a lot of speculation about possible looting happening. WINSLOW says there's not a lot of damage done anywhere in the city by protesters and looters, but it's a different picture around the country. Many cities now implementing a curfew due to rioters and looters. Springfield Police Chief Kenny WINSLOW says there isn't a curfew here yet, but the option is still open.
As we go through these times, we're asking people to stay at home. There has been no curfew implemented. I know there's been some rumors about that. There's not. We believe that the good citizens of Springfield will be responsible and do the right things out there.
WINSLOW says if city officials do opt to go with a curfew, they'll try to do it earlier in the day rather than later, so everyone can still be aware. Now, there is still expected to be a very large protest at the state capitol around 3 o'clock today, and WINSLOW says SPD will still allow this to happen. For now, live in Springfield, Matt Roy, back to you two.
All right, let's get to that protest, too, at the Marketplace Mall in Champaign, spilling into the Macy's parking lot. It started with a handful of looters grabbing armfuls of clothing, then hundreds of people you see here showing up after police shortly arrived. They made a barrier around the department store, you see. Peaceful protesters actually stood in between those looters to stop them from destroying the store you see here.
You breaking into places, you're doing nothing but adding to what's going on in the nation. We're supposed to change the narrative by taking control. What you're doing is not taking control. You're adding to the chaos that is going on in America. You're creating the narrative to keep us looking like animals.
A curfew was put in place in both Champaign and Urbana, expiring at 6 a.m. just about 30 minutes ago. A peaceful protest, though, was planned by the Black Lives Matter organization at the Champaign County Courthouse beginning at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Tensions rising between protesters and police in Champaign. People seen standing with signs at the intersection of Prospect Avenue and Town Center Boulevard. That protest later escalating into a standoff and looting situation at a local gas station. Protesters say this chaos is a result of a long-standing distrust and mistreatment of black people from law enforcement.
Stealing a pair of shoes, a shirt, a watch is inadequate compensation for the loss of his life. They made his death seem like it wasn't, like his life wasn't of value. There's nothing wrong with a protest, but it has to be done responsibly.
And more frustration from the public, leading to beers being thrown at police cars, police pepper spraying people, and the destruction of nearby properties. Champaign police increasing patrol officers in attempts to disperse protesters as the madness around town unfolds.
And due to looting in Champaign and reports of more protests, the Springfield Walmart, the Champaign Walmart stores closed early on Sunday, barricading entrances amid concerns of possible looting Sunday. Even stores like Kohl's and Best Buy also closed down early in Springfield and in multiple locations around the country as well. New this morning, we have two new things. Ross was scheduled to reopen later today. They have decided to remain closed, as well as the Chick-fil-A store as well. We just learned that the restaurant deciding to close that location, the White Oaks Mall location, beginning today.
Continuing our coverage, a different story here in Springfield. Peaceful protesters taking to the streets. Hundreds of cars lining up for a Black Lives Matter procession. It started at 9th and Adams and continued for several blocks. Many people driving and honking their horns in solidarity for Black lives.
I love it that everyone is coming together, and hopefully we can all finally know that we're one, not the community versus the police. We're all just one. So I am very proud of what's going on right now, honestly.
Local leaders responding to the untimely death of George Floyd and the aftermath that has come with it as well.
Yes, as News Channel 20's Sydney Dorner explains, many are calling this weekend's events an outcry for justice.
Alderman Sean Gregory, vocal on social media, says he is fed up with seeing Black lives lost at the hands of the police.
Just as African Americans, Black people, and we're concerned about this all over the country, and just us, but other people are everybody's just so exhausted of seeing the same situation across the country.
Teresa Haley, another pivotal figure in the Black community here, says the long history of police brutality, specifically at Black men, must stop.
But when we look at things from Eric Gardner to George Floyd, this is just a reminder that we're not safe, that we're not free. We're in America, but we are not free.
Sunshine Clemens, president of the Black Lives Matter Springfield chapter, says her organization is planning a car procession tomorrow to keep social distance while still sending a clear message.
We're asking people to decorate their cars to show solidarity for the continuous murder of Black people at the hands of police officers who are supposed to be protecting us, to show solidarity with Black people who have been harassed.
Another protest will be happening later today, too, at the Lincoln statue in Springfield. That'll begin at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and we will have live team coverage then. Governor Pritzker, meanwhile, issuing a disaster proclamation for Cook County on Sunday. This all to expedite the use of state personnel and equipment to keep Chicago safe. And in the midst of the global pandemic, IEMA ordering a 24-hour closure of all community-based COVID-19 testing sites in Illinois to protect both staff and patients. And we have learned, too, that there have been multiple fires in Chicago this morning erupting. So we'll be following that one as well very closely later on today.
Yes, also in Chicago, protests erupting since Friday night in downtown Chicago. Protesters pushing against police, damaging a van, over 100 people arrested and a dozen squad cars damaged. This prompting Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot to issue a citywide curfew starting at 9 p.m.
6:38 is your time. Still ahead on Sunrise as more protests erupt. COVID-19 cases are too.
Yes, a grim update this morning, both nationwide and here in Illinois. Plus, what your local dentist office is doing to keep you and your teeth healthy. Brian.